I talk to a lot of founders, and some founders are completely aware, and some are a little bit in denial still. AI is going to open the door to doors that never existed, and we're seeing that already.
This is where I feel that there is a huge issue right now in society, where you have aspiring entrepreneurs.
And one of the biggest problems I see today working with other founders is, and that's one of the biggest red flags I see, is when they're trying to solve a problem that they're not even a user of or have ever needed to be a user of. And, in a way, you're just an investor at that point. You're taking a guess to some degree. And as a founder, I think one of the most important things a founder can do is bring some lived experience and solve real world problems that they just feel need to be better. There's got to be a better way. And I think that's a huge advantage if a founder brings that to the table.
Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you.
It is. I'm so excited to have you here. It's been so long since we hung out, but we've been connected forever. And you're one of San Diego's true rock stars that needs to have a little bit more exposure. So I really appreciate us getting to hang out and you coming up and visiting me and doing the show and sharing your brilliance with the audience.
Well, thank you for having me in this awesome studio. Excited to be here.
Thank you. Well, I think it's most important that we kick off. David, what I love about you specifically, and obviously Avi's great, he's not here today, but when I met you professionally, I don't know, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was, and you were showing me at the time agentology, which later changed, evolved to Verse, which you've recently exited. What I saw from how you guys attacked it was a leadership style and an approach, because it was a pretty saturated market. At the time, it was real estate. Zillow was pretty live. Redfin, Realtor. This must have been 2019, 18, 17, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And it seemed very crowded. And I remember trying to wrap my head around, how are you finding an opportunity? What are you seeing here in this very crowded real estate side of the world that you felt could be a differentiator? And I want to start by asking you, what did you see there? Because not necessarily just tactically, but you saw a very crowded space in a very competitive market against behemoths. And then you said, hey, I got this ability to penetrate and disrupt.
Yeah, well, I was in real estate myself for a while. I was after college. I actually tried to be in the movie business for quite a while.
What you didn't share was
clearly didn't work out. They had standards, and after that, I got into real estate for a bit because I was very passionate. I wanted to get into real estate development with an uncle of mine, and I, the entrepreneur in me, just quickly grew that. I became a broker. I hired agents. I had my own office. And in a very crowded space, I started just focusing on all the inefficiencies. And I just realized, yes, there are a lot of big players here. There's over 1 million realtors out there, and there's no shortage of leads that they can generate from sites like Zillow and Realtor.com and Homes.com, et cetera. But what's really missing is how to take this industry that is large and crowded, but bring some technology to it to optimize it and to make people more productive, to save them money, save them time, and help them help their customers in a more efficient and authentic way. And so I think one of the reasons we succeeded was that it came from an experience that I lived, and so it wasn't just a kind of a solution in search of a problem. It was a problem that I saw that my own agents were struggling with, that I wanted to find a solution for. And so I think coming from that kind of a place, you're going to attack any problem, any industry in a different way, knowing it, understanding the nuances of it, and finding out how to carve your place in that space.
Mm-hmm. So there's a few things I want to touch on there. You started by saying you noticed in solving the inefficiencies, and I think that is such an important distinction. How would you define that? Because I think what I see today is a lot of this, I want to be an entrepreneur, so I'm trying to create a problem so I can create a solution.
Yeah.
Instead of what you just said was find the inefficiencies inside of a market. So when you say that, maybe you could be specific if you want to, or you could just be abstract if you think it's more apropos, but what do you define, or how did you see an inefficiency? Because when I think of, and I'm speaking not from my seat today as an entrepreneur, but from my seat of just the world, when I see or believe, it's like, oh, a Zillow, a Realtor, a Redfin, they're already tech companies. That implies that there already has a tech space, that they've already solved the inefficiencies. So how did you feel or see or define those inefficiencies?
Well, every company has the things they're really, really good at. And they can be a tech company, but it doesn't mean they've solved everything with tech yet or every inefficiency yet. And the biggest companies in the world still work with other vendors that provide other solutions that help them fill those gaps and optimize other parts of the business. What I saw, and I'm sure you saw in the marketing days, was that there was no shortage of ways to generate leads. People who raised their hand and said, I'm looking for a realtor. And so agents were buying leads from Zillow and Realtor.com. And I, as a broker, started buying leads early on in when Zillow first came out. I was an early adopter, buying leads from all these places, spending a lot of money, and feeding my agents these opportunities. And I would ask my agents the next day, I'd say, how'd it go with, Joe and Jack that I introduced you to, or I sent you the lead. And they'd say, oh, well, I called and I left a voicemail, so, I'm sure they'll call me back. And I was like, okay. And at first, frankly, to be honest, I was like, okay, great. Yeah. And after a while, I started to realize, and another agent of mine would be like, well, I emailed them, so they'll let me know when they're ready. And I just realized there's got to be a better way of doing this. And I personally, maybe it was my age, maybe it was the generation I was in. I was like, first off, I hate answering phone calls from numbers I don't know. I think most people here would agree. Mm-hmm. And I may be interested, but it might take you a few tries to get a hold of me. And most agents, what are they good at? They're not good at, long-term lead nurture, follow-up sequencing. They're good at showing you the value in a property and helping you negotiate the best price and walking you through that transaction. And that's what they should focus on. And so what I realized was that I could help not just my agents, but all realtors out there follow up with leads that they were generating consistently and more authentically. And so instead of just calling with bland messages or trying to send a text or an email, we would create follow-up sequences that were optimized and designed to engage people authentically without bugging them, do it compliantly, and do it in a way that reached out to people immediately. Mm-hmm. So the moment you clicked, I want to talk to you, you would get a message. And we could set that appointment up right away because it's speed to lead, right?
Which to this day,
speed to lead is speed to relationship.
Boggles my mind. Yeah. How real estate agents, both commercial and residential, don't blast their cell phone. When I see a commercial property for Everbull or I see a house I'm interested in and I can't call and speak to somebody right now, it boggles my mind.
Yeah, and it's not just for real estate. This is not a real estate leads problem. It's an internet leads problem. It's a digital leads problem.
It's also a physical world problem.
And a physical world problem. But, in terms of, the rise of just, every lead source blowing up on the internet. And if you're a plumber, you're getting leads from Angie's List and Home Advisor. And if you're a lawyer, you're getting leads from other places. And so they all struggle with it. And it's not their fault. If you're a lawyer, you may be in court.
Sure.
If you're a plumber, you may be under a sink when that lead comes through. But guess what? If someone else has a toilet that's leaking or a place that's flooding and you don't answer right away,
it costs what else?
Yeah, they're going to call the next number 2 on Yelp or number 3, and you just missed that opportunity. And so we wanted to help people stop missing that opportunity, but at the same time improve the customer experience.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it pisses you off. It makes you feel uncared for. And if someone responds to you right away, immediately you're just like, okay, this company's legit. They care. They're going to be responsive. That's who I want to work with. And you stop looking for someone else.
And I'm going to give you an idea that's worth $1 billion, so you can write me a check after the show.
Perfect.
But take what you did for residential and please do it for commercial, because I see commercial opportunities for Everbull or WeBuild or some of my clients, and they have a number, and they don't. Sometimes they have a name, and sometimes they don't. You call Rolodex, and you never get a person.
Yeah.
And like, I need to know how much the space is because I'm looking for a home.
Yeah.
And I'm working right now because tomorrow and later today I have other things to do.
Yeah.
I need to know right now, and they just don't provide it.
Yeah.
And I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we worked with, we started in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
And we saw the problem in all industries. And so we expanded to mortgage, all home services. And we went into legal, insurance, healthcare. And we really kind of spread our wings. That's when we rebranded to Verse AI.
And so is it fair to say that but now, okay, how do you determine who gets the lead?
Well, we're not generating the leads.
At all?
We're working with people companies who are already generating leads.
So I'm the plumber. I give you become my front end.
Exactly. We plug into your CRM. So the moment leads come in, whether it's from your own website, Facebook, Angie's List, wherever, there's a system that's automating the follow-up for you 24/7.
Okay. So you're essentially, what you created was a virtual administration and front end sales.
Yeah, 24/7 assistant that's following up automatically with conversational AI.
But you couldn't have been the first to come up with this.
Some people were doing it in certain industries in a very, kind of vertical approach.
Yep.
And we took a little bit more of a horizontal approach. We started vertically, but we spread our wings horizontally. And our platform, we built it to be extremely customizable. So the first, medical use case we got was actually from a ED, service. So, and overnight we were able to stand up the platform to solve this problem. So we weren't too pigeonholed to just one industry. So yeah, there were a few competitors that were focused just in real estate or just in mortgage. We took a different approach to be a wider platform.
And did you try lead gen as well?
We did. So the first company we sold, what we did, we saw the same problem, and we became the buyers. So we would put ads. We were spending millions a year generating leads from Google, Facebook, all that for realtors. But we would qualify them ourselves with our own tech, and then sell qualified, vetted leads. But at some point, we realized that we were sort of capped in that model to the leads we would generate, and we said, well, we can open this up and service every lead ever generated on Zillow or Realtor.com or Homes.com. Or Angie's List, et cetera. Yeah. And so that's when we sold that division off, and we actually reinvested all those proceeds and went off to the races with the wider platform.
And I want to, before I get to the real estate question I'm going to ask, this is the entrepreneur question, because like I said, this is where I feel that there is a huge issue right now in society, where you have aspiring entrepreneurs trying to fabricate problems, to fabricate companies so they could be an entrepreneur. You said, I lived this thing and I felt and realized the problem, and I was able to solve it because I solved it for me. And that's what WeBuild is, for example, for me.
Yeah.
Everbuild was just a passion project, but WeBuild was me solving a problem for myself that now allows me to solve it for all these other brands. How important do you think as an entrepreneur, and if you were, speaking to a bunch of aspiring entrepreneurs or people trying to break in, is it to live the problem first versus just abstractly see or try to identify a problem?
Yeah, and I think you just have such a bigger advantage if you've lived the problem, because you're going to understand it from all angles. You're going to be the user yourself. And one of the biggest problems I see today working with other founders is, and that's one of the biggest red flags I see, is when they're trying to solve a problem that they're not even a user of or have ever needed to be a user of. And, in a way, you're just an investor at that point. You're taking a guess to some degree. And as a founder, I think one of the most important things a founder can do is bring some lived experience and solve real world problems that they just feel need to be better. There's got to be a better way. And I think that's a huge advantage if a founder brings that to the table.
So I'm pretty known for saying I think experience is overrated to start a company. So I say that, but what I want to make sure I'm clear on is I don't mean, though, I fabricate problems. What I mean is, start Everbuild, I wasn't solving a problem. I was bringing a solution, because I think you can start a company by solving a problem, improving an industry, or doing it just differently.
Yeah.
You're solving problems. When you try to solve a problem, you have to live it.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have started WeBuild without knowing what the problem was, because I would just make it up.
Yeah.
Everbuild, I didn't need to have experience. And so I want to ask you a little bit and challenge this notion, because I think you're so right. But I also know that as you are you're a stud entrepreneur, you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, you obviously are doing a bunch in the space, so you have exposure as well. How would you said it brings a lot of value to know the problem, right? But now, what's next for you, right? You're going to do something else. You may not have lived it because you're not going to go back to the bare bone bottom, right?
Yeah.
So how would you help or advise in the sector of, okay, you're not going to live the problem. What's another way?
Well, another way is a problem that you, either a problem that you see often.
Yep.
And again, you don't have to have the exact lived experience of the problem. It just gives you an advantage, certainly.
Sure.
So you starting Everbowl, you're a badass entrepreneur and you know how to solve problems. But if there were two people of equal smarts and one had worked in QSR industry for a long time, it doesn't mean one would succeed and the other wouldn't for sure, but one would certainly have an advantage, I would think.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's an advantage. So I agree with you entirely that there's a few different ways. One is to approach it from a problem that you've experienced. One is a problem that you see happening all the time, and you just feel like there's a solution there to be had.
Yeah.
And another is I want to create something that doesn't even exist right now. I want to bring something new. I want to build something. I want to invent something that doesn't exist, and that can make the world a cooler place to live in.
Yeah.
And so I think all of those are great approaches, and you just got to be passionate about it.
So is it fair to say, though, that you solved a problem that you lived, but also I think you improved an existing solution that was there? Because there was companies and solutions that would nurture leads.
Yeah.
But you made an improvement because of the technology side, right? So there's solve problem that doesn't have a solution, right? Like cure for disease that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then there's lots of cures for the disease or treatments for the disease, and you make a better treatment that is 5%, 8%, 3%, 12% better, and it's material.
Absolutely.
Right? In business, it's the same. You identified the problem you had because the existing solutions weren't adequate enough. But you're not the first to come up with, let me nurture leads on behalf of third parties.
Absolutely.
So you really improved the solution.
Absolutely.
And then innovated and added new pieces to it with AI components, nurturing, technology, horizontal, how you did it. So when you started Agentology, though, that wasn't in your first version of your business plan.
No.
Because I never heard that when I met you with Agentology, that you were going to go to all of these other areas with it.
No, and I didn't have any experience in any of those industries, to your point.
And so as an entrepreneur, how important is it that you have thought all, because I also, and I'm so excited to share for some of our younger aspiring entrepreneurs today, because lately I've been getting a lot of questions about, well, I'm working on my 5-year business plan, and I always laugh with the 5-year business plan because to me that's academia, not real world.
Yeah.
You tell me what happened 5 years ago, and let me share something with you. COVID just started.
Yeah.
Like we're all sitting at home right now wondering what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Like think about what's happened in 5 years. 5 years is a long time. So how important is it to you as an entrepreneur, and if you were helping others to think that far into the future, because knowing that none of that's actually going to come to fruition, but it's important to know what you anticipate so you can pivot against or work against?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There's a couple ways that I would think about it. One is there something fundamentally changing about society or technology that you see the world transforming into an opportunity that you want to be a part of? That big growing industry that's just starting. It's going to get bigger. The other, though, is just having a long-term vision, and I think having a long-term vision is important. I wouldn't call it a plan. We always had long-term visions, but it wasn't like a detailed plan by any means. But it was a kind of a North Star.
Like frame it. You don't have to be specific to your business, but like give me some context to what the difference. Because a 5-year business plan would be very specific.
Yeah,
in 5 years, I'm going to have this many units. We're going to make this much money.
Yeah, I'm going to have this many employees, this many salespeople, and all this. And
revenue
this is what I'm going to
up.
be charging then. And yeah, exactly. And then you have no idea what the future holds.
Sure.
But the vision is, for us, for example, the vision was we want to be the center of communications for businesses and their customers.
I mean, that is. I want you to say that again, because that is the gold. It was, we built solution. We're in real estate. We're niche right now. We're focused, but our vision isn't going to hold us into this box. Our vision is,
we want to be the center of conversations between businesses and their customers, and that paints a brighter picture, a bigger vision. But it also keeps a North Star, and I think it's helpful because. And I'm sure you've heard of this analogy, but when you're flying from L.A. to London, the plane is off course 97% of the time, and it's about continuing to adjust. And so that's where you need a North Star. So at the end of the day, you land hopefully somewhere near London. And the startup world is different.
At an airport, hopefully.
Yeah, you're never going to land exactly at the right time and where you thought, but you at least want to be directionally in a place. And I also think it's not just for yourself, it's for the whole team.
Yeah.
For the whole team to have a vision of where you're going, because people don't just want to come into an office every day and just do their jobs and leave and be like whatever about tomorrow. I think they want to be excited about the future, and have a vision for it.
And that goes kind of to your leadership style, because you're more of a high-tech, high-touch leader.
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
What does that essentially mean to you? Like when you think about leadership style, like I came to your organization before COVID when you had the office. I felt the culture, right?
Yeah.
I know you, so I know it. I mean, you even open your homes to fun experiences.
Yeah.
But what is high-tech, high-touch? Like how do you view that from the leadership side to exactly what you just said, right? To ensure that you empower your team with the vision, knowing that the road in front of you is going to be bumpy. I mean, startups are hard.
Yeah.
It's stressful.
I think you want to consistently align everybody in the organization. So there's a few ways. People always say about transparency and all that, and I think that's important, because I think you want to treat people as much like an owner as possible. You want them to be as invested as possible in the vision as you are. And maybe that's idealistic, but that should be a goal, I think. People to be just as much rooting and being your champions and warriors on that battlefield as you are. And
but what creates that? Because I think it's an easy thing to say.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to effectuate, especially because they don't have the same stakes that you have.
Well, so transparency is a cornerstone to that, so that they understand where the business is. It's not just about, in our monthly, all hands meetings, it wasn't just powwows and high fives. It was, frankly, here are all the problems we have. Here are all the challenges we're facing. Here's a couple things of good news, and sales are good and this and that. But here's what we're bumping up against. Here's what we're worried about. And then it gets everybody really aligned to the way you're thinking about it. Because that's what you're doing at Everbowl, right? Is you're thinking not just about all the great news, but you're also thinking about all the things ahead that you want to navigate around.
But that's kind of hard, because I love this conversation, because that's one of my challenges, right? Is the CEO's job is to not look for sunny beaches, it's to look for icebergs.
Totally.
And employees feel that you may not be cherishing all the wins. Like, don't you see what all the cool stuff we're doing when you're focused on icebergs? But that is our job.
Yeah. Well, when COVID hit,
we
had really cool culture. We were, over 100 people in a really cool office.
Really
every single morning, I would come in every single morning and fist bump 100% of the employees, and just be like, hey Jeff,
I wanted one.
Hey Bob, hey Keely, just everybody. I would go around and fist bump everybody, and it was a way to make everybody understand that I appreciate them. I see them, and that we're kind of we're part of the same team.
Yep.
And it was a little thing, but to this day, people talk about it and remind me of it and tell me they miss it. And they're like, "Oh, the new CEOs here don't do that."
Sure.
And they're remote, so it's a little different sometimes. But
that'd be a little weird, right? Come in your living room every morning. Hey, Bob.
Hey,
nice shorts.
Got to catch a flight now to the next city. But a part of that is just being with people and connected.
Yeah.
And then we designed comp structures for everybody. It wasn't, a lot of companies just give comp structures to exec team and maybe sales, because it's very commission based, and that makes sense. But we did company-wide goals. So we said, like during COVID, we had to make a lot of tough cuts and decisions, people and just resources. But people totally understood, because we had been transparent. That hard moment became easier in a way because we had been transparent for years with people. So when we showed them, hey, this is what's happening with our customers, they're struggling, which means we're going to struggle for a while. How do we keep the boat afloat so we can get through the storm and bring people back?
Yeah.
And at the same time, we started to align incentives and say, now we want to control our own destiny. So we want to become profitable. We want to hit this revenue. So we still want to grow. We still want to do these things, but we also want to become profitable. And by the way, if we hit these goals, we're all sharing in the upside of it together, all of us. And what was amazing to me was how people who we would have never thought would have cared about what pens cost, telling us, I'm just giving a weird example, but like, we don't need pens, or we don't need, that never happened, the pens
I don't
thing.
need a chair.
I couldn't think of a real example on the spot. No, but they would say, we don't really need Zoom. For example, people said, we could use Google Meet. It's free, and we already have it in our G Suite, and we could save. I don't know. They didn't even know what we were spending on it, but they would just approach us with ideas. And I remember we found over $1 million of annual savings within 3 months.
Wow.
Of just employees bringing us ideas of ways that we could just save a little money here, a little money there, a little money here. The pennies added up.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing. But what was amazing to me wasn't just that we were saving money and it was good for the business. It was that everybody cared.
Yeah.
And that everybody felt like an owner. And that was actually one of our core values was take ownership and feel like an owner. And we gave everybody stock and all of that as well on top of that.
I'm glad you say core values because I believe core values are everything. A lot of companies have them, but they're more aspirations. They don't live them. It's hard to live them 100% of the times, like any value we all have personally, right?
Totally.
And I think if you don't really have your core values as a person and as a company, who are you? You're just going to be a flag flying in the wind, whatever the wind goes. And I think it's also important to understand that none of us have 100% of the attributes and skills of what would make a great entrepreneur or leader, right? I have my weaknesses. You don't have any, but most of us have a few. You walk on water.
I wish I did.
Yeah, I know. It'd be interesting to see what it felt like.
Yeah. I've heard of them.
Yeah, they suck.
Sad.
They suck. But it's okay. It's an area to improve. Kaizen.
Yeah.
But that's one of the areas that you just said that I work on, right? Because as a leader, I am so focused on all the things that I forget that my team at whole doesn't always know all of the nuance of what we're working on. And so I struggle and work on that consistently to put myself back to say, wait, they're seeing, and they know where we're going, but they don't always know the why.
Yeah.
Or the how this is happening. And why does that make sense? And I take that for granted, not intentionally. So it's an area that I'm glad to hear that has been such a rewarding side for you because I am working on that. Switching to core values, how many did you have? What were they?
There were 5.
I love 5.
There were 5. It was take ownership.
Yep.
Come from solution. So the idea of that one was, yes, you're going to find problems, but don't just bring problems to the table. Bring solutions. And we didn't just want venting sessions.
Yeah.
We wanted people to come in with solutions. Say, yeah, there's this problem, but let's focus on the solutions. It was one team. It was, God, I'm going to blank on these because you're putting me on the spot.
Good.
It's been 6 months.
It's fine. No, it's fine.
It was do the right thing.
Okay.
And God, there was one more.
Remember the core values, number 5.
There was one more.
It was remember the core values.
Yeah, number 5 was to always remember the core values.
Now, how strict were you that the team was that?
We hired based on it.
Sure.
So our HR department would filter people through that filter, through that lens.
Okay.
And try to understand what the people were like. Their skills were important.
Yep.
Their experience was important for certain roles, especially not for all roles. But what was really important to us was what kind of person were they. And I saw a recent video you did. We were talking about how investors want to invest in the jockey.
Yes.
And it's absolutely true, more than the idea. And it's similar, I think, with employees to a big degree. Is you want to invest in just good people because good people will make good decisions. They'll be good teammates. They're going to be team players. They're going to have these values intrinsically. You won't have to teach them.
Yes. And it's actually the only thing you can count on.
Yeah.
Right? Who you are, I can count on. What you know or won't know or will know, I can't.
Yeah.
Because the world changes.
Yeah. And it's actually hard to train people to values they don't already hold.
Yes.
They may put it up a day or two, but that they fall back to who they are. And you got to let people be who they are.
Yeah. And I think it's tough, right? Because especially as we go through the world society where we are, we talk about all the...
I found the 5th one. I remembered the 5th one. Get shit done.
Oh, how did you forget that one?
I don't know.
Get shit done, man.
I don't know. I didn't want to curse. I know this was a family show.
Yes. By far, yes.
Yes.
Definitely. 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds.
I didn't want to offend anyone this far into the, get shit done.
Get shit. Well, that's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. And we did offend a couple employees who didn't like swear words.
But
they got it. And they got shit done.
Or they didn't want to work with you.
But they got shit done still.
Yeah. I mean, I think core values are so critical, and values imply, I think the challenge is so many people use them as aspirations of who they want to be one day or where they want to go instead of who they are. And when they go off kilter, they repurpose themselves back.
Yeah.
I have fallen away from mine many times in my life. And when I become aware, I get laser focused to get back to that because that is the model for success of an organization. I now know that if I was going to work with you, I need to get shit done.
Yeah.
I need to come with solutions, not problems.
Yeah.
Right? I have to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I got to try to remember the 2. Hold on. Do the right thing. Get shit done. Come with solutions, not problems. Oh my gosh.
Take ownership.
Take ownership. And wait, there's a 5th one.
One team.
One team. What does that mean? Because
Because
that's hard.
Well, I think what it means is sometimes there's a lot of politics in an organization, right?
There's always
And
politics.
a lot of times even comp structures can conflict.
Yeah.
And who gets credit and who this and who that and who gets blamed if someone cancels and things like that. And reminding people that like we're all on the same ship. We're all, trying to row to the same island is important. And, in the early days, we used to say we're one big family.
Yeah.
After reading Reed Hastings' book, we realized we're more like a sports team.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're familiar with all this, but family you love and they're going to be around whether they screw up or not, whether they hold their weight or not in the family. A sports team, everyone's got to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's got to perform. And you can't have a linebacker not putting his best foot forward in a game because the whole team suffers. It's not just he suffers in his next contract.
Yeah.
It's the entire team suffers, and that was what we try to instill in the team and say, we're all close, we're all one team, but we have to rely on each other, and you got to get shit done.
Yeah. So I work for you. I come in your office. I say,
You get a fist bump.
I get a fist bump.
Always explodes.
Always explodes. Sir David.
Yeah.
I think I've been working really hard. I would like to talk about my compensation. I'd like to make more money. How do you, as a leader, handle those moments?
I would immediately come up with a stomach ache and just walk out.
That makes sense. The burrito.
Yeah.
Because you need Everbowl that day. Gosh,
No,
See, I'd come with Everbowl. Eat this. I'll be back in an hour.
Jokes aside, we would create from the moment we hired anybody a career path.
Okay.
The moment you're hired, we would say, here's where you're starting, but here's the career path.
Okay.
So this wasn't a surprise to us when people would come, but we would have a career plan and path. So it would be, okay, where are you on that plan? Where are you on that path?
Yep.
If you're trying to come to me a month in and asking to jump to the next step, it's not the right time.
Even regardless of my value?
I mean, it would be hard to see like an immediate
Sure.
1 month.
Maybe a month isn't the right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't so specific.
Yeah.
The plan just had a path to it. And it was value-based. It was, how much are you contributing? How much are you worth to the organization? And can you handle more? And can we trust you with leveling up the next people? Because when you moved up, it meant some more responsibility in leadership.
Yeah.
And leadership is a whole separate thing, and it requires trust and it requires other skills where it's not just about you, it's about you being able to lift others up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm glad you said that about leadership because I think that is a buzzword in organizations, especially today with technology being so much more available and the utility of it being so much more impactful. Teams are going to be leaner, which would require more leaders and less individual contributors.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah. Why not? I think
why
think
not?
those leaders are also I think to some degree, yes.
You can challenge me if you disagree. I love it.
No, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, yes, more leaders, but also those leaders are bigger contributors directly, depending on the kind of business. But if they're leveraging, look how many billion-dollar companies are 10 people.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're all leaders. They're just huge independent. They're self-leaders. I don't know if they're managing anyone.
Okay, I think of leadership. That's okay. I get it. So to you, and the way you're using the word leadership is of people.
That's how I was thinking about it. But I can see where you're maybe coming from.
I'm saying leading
a
department and whatever we effectuate the solution, whether it's one person and two agentic AI agents, or it's one person managing 47 great humans.
I was thinking more people leadership. But you're right. It's going to require more leadership in general and just kind of leading the way and bringing more solutions and resources and being resourceful and all of those things that a leader requires with or without people.
Yeah, because I view it as leaders are dependent on to solve the problem inside the constraints and confines of the core values of the organization and what our goal is.
Got it, yeah.
Who they work with, how they do it, that's actually their job.
Yeah.
And the less involvement upper management, upper leadership has to do, the better leader they are.
Absolutely.
And the more hand-holding we have to do, the more of a non-leader you are, because someone else is leading.
Exactly.
And I view people as such an important component. I think until recently, we've always had that as people. And I think that was the segue into my next question, being that you are in the tech space and the AI space. It's in first.ai.
Yeah.
How do you see this transition happening right now? As far as are you concerned? Are you excited? Do you see that the robots in Terminator, all roads lead to Terminator?
Yeah.
All roads.
They really do.
They really do. Play it out any way you want.
There's really only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's Arnold?
Exactly. Well, I think it's an extremely exciting time. I think with any big technological disruption, it can cause a lot of concern, uncertainty. It's going to disrupt a lot of ways things have been done. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I empathize with a lot of people who are going to frankly be less valuable today than they were a couple years ago if they don't up-level themselves. And I think that's the key thing here is, and someone asked me recently, what are you going to look for in next people you hire? And the first thing that comes to my head is people who are obsessed with AI. Not people who are afraid of it and trying to defend against it. I want to hire a designer, but who is obsessed with AI and is going to leverage everything. And that designer is going to put out 5 to 10-fold what they could do 5-10 years ago and be excited about that.
So you don't want the designer coming to you and saying, well, I'm going to build a department. I'm going to need 6 more designers, and I'm going to need all these people to solve the problem. You want the designer who's going to come to you and say, I'm going to leverage these technology tools. Yeah. I'm going to give you the power of 30 designers for the price of 1.
Yeah, and if they need to hire a team of 5, great, as long as they're going to turn that team of 5 into 50 to 100 in terms of productivity.
And you need it.
Yeah, and I actually think there's a place where, in every big technological disruption, people got displaced in certain areas, but the net effect was more jobs. And people always thought, no, it's going to create less jobs. The net effect was more jobs and more productivity. And so there are more people employed today than there were 20 years ago.
Yeah, but it's a little bit by design.
Sure.
Right? Self-fulfilling industries that are being propped up by society because we want to keep them. I mean, I'm going to challenge the realtor market for a second.
Sure.
A lot of those jobs aren't needed.
I agree.
A lot of them don't even really do a job.
Yeah, I agree.
If I go on Zillow, find a house I like, call my realtor buddy, hey, I want to go look at the house. They open the door. I walk through and say, I love it. Send proposal. Other side, yes, there's some knowledge that needs to happen with the contract and transaction, but AI could have done that, or an administrator, or agentology, or Verse.ai if you put somebody there who handled it.
Yeah.
But we keep those roles there.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with a lot of other industries.
Yeah. I agree with that. And so I'm not saying the same jobs will have more jobs.
Yes.
I think there will be a transition. I think things will change. People will be displaced. Values people offer today are getting diminished in certain areas. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
But I do think there are going to be other areas where AI is going to open the door to doors that never existed. And we're seeing that already.
Yes.
And so I look at it optimistically as an exciting time, but I do think there's going to be a lot of hurt from it.
Yeah.
And I do think a lot of companies who aren't I talk to a lot of founders, and some founders are completely aware and some are a little bit in denial still.
Sure.
And those are the ones I would run away from, because they should embrace the change, not argue whether it's good or bad or moral or immoral. It is what it is. It's here and it's going to keep growing.
And it's not I don't think it's a morality question. I think the concern people have, and why I'm excited, is not because, I get to replace humans with technology. That is not it at all. I have an intolerance for mediocrity.
Yeah.
And what it now provides for people who love remarkability is it gives them the aptitude and applications and tool set to provide that.
Yeah.
And without the necessity to lean on mediocrity.
Yeah.
And I think if you are not leveling up, if you do not care about your craft, if you don't take what you do every day and do it to the best of your ability, it is going to be a scary time.
Yeah.
Because the ability to replace mediocrity is going to become very easy.
Yeah. 100%.
Across every industry.
Yeah. If you're hiring a content creator, someone that's writing for you, let's say, and this is the most basic kind of AI example, they may be a little, there could be two kinds of people. One who's like, but no one is going to understand it and write it the way I would, and this and that. And someone is like, holy crap, I can write 30 times as many articles as I am now. I'm going to be able to spread our message 30 times faster across multiple more channels, and with the same role. I could provide that much more value.
And that's the leader that we were just chatting about.
Leader.
That's what leadership is.
That's who you want to hire. You want to hire people who have that mindset,
yes,
aren't afraid.
And are pushing it and not saying, well, I'm still just putting out.
They're not trying to defend their position. They're trying to amplify it,
yes,
absorb the tech, and help it amplify you.
And instead of pushing out that one piece of content, they are naturally saying, oh, now it's 50 pieces, and look how good it is.
Yeah.
Holy smoke, that person
and
rises.
Look how we can track it, and look at all these different amazing things we could do now, and we don't have to hire a bunch of people to do it.
Yes, because I couldn't agree more, and I think it goes to that whole facet of, I think a lot of people are also thinking, well, AI is more marketing. It's everything.
It's everything.
I mean, examples we're looking at, like who's working in an Everable store when our sales are the highest, and AI can look at our historical sales, and it can look at who's running and who's in the box when we're having our best sales, and make sure that our busiest hours every week are connected with our best staff.
Exactly.
And if you're in the store when our sales are weak, what is the training Kaizen we need to focus on? What's going on? And now we can identify.
And by the way, the faster you optimize that, the faster you can confidently open up more stores.
That's right.
So it's going to create more jobs.
Correct.
Faster.
Different jobs.
Different jobs.
Yes. And look, the necessity for a job is the word. I think we do a lot of mundane tasks because we've done a lot of mundane tasks.
Yeah.
Now it's about leadership. It is empowering leaders, and that is what excites the hell out of me. I am so excited to see true disruptive innovators take tools like AI that have the power of multiple brains and skill sets, included in their deliverance, and provide value.
And you have cameras in your stores,
of course.
Now imagine feeding all the footage, anonymized, and there's services for this where it doesn't. It reads. There's a company called Density, and they read the heat footprint, so it's anonymized, but it measures how people are walking through locations and places. Now imagine then you apply that to all of your stores, and you start to realize people are kind of clumping up over here very often. Either you solve for that, or you sell something right there. you put another register there, whatever it is. So,
which is such a. I want to just give a little shout out to my former partner and buddy Neil, because Neil built Kissmetrics and Crazy Egg, and on the idea of heat mapping on a website to do the same thing. And where do you put your call to action?
We used it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not on behalf of him.
And then you got to see where people were.
Can I have some money to give to him, please? I'm sure you didn't pay the free model, but that was the whole idea, right? What is a CRO, right? A chief revenue officer. How do you monetize the experience and where people are going, and make sure that you do your call to actions right, or in a physical box. Now empowering the digital to transform into the physical.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's Crazy Egg for the physical space.
Yes, fascinating, right?
Fascinating, right?
Awesome.
And you can optimize stores. You can decide in the future you're going to lay them out slightly differently, whatever it is to optimize.
Yes.
And to create, not just optimize revenue, optimize the experience, which optimizes revenue.
Now, a little bit of a side tangent. What do you feel about the fact that now you have a lot of people who are using these tools to kind of do these little niche, quick startups that won't have longevity because it's not a long-term solution, but it's a make some money quick thing, and they aren't just leaning into, let's say, their organization. So I see a lot of smart people leaving jobs because they think that now they have the power to go do this stuff. And I'm an entrepreneur. If you want to be in the seat, go be in the seat.
Yeah.
Get in the ring.
Yeah.
Do you think it is a good thing or a bad thing? Because I don't believe I'm employable. I don't think you would ever hire me, because it's just a matter of when I leave you, right?
Yeah. You mean someone who's kind of got a side hustle? And
not a side hustle, but like take your 100 people, that were working at Agent. I'm going to use Agentology back then, because that was when I knew you had 100 people. I don't know when you went remote. I'm in the office, I'm doing this stuff, and now all of a sudden I got all these AI tools. Now I can go do my own little content thing. So I'm doing content for you, but I can go do it for 15 other people. So here, or I'm going to go do this. So now they become, everyone's moving towards this freelance model.
Yeah.
Which in the short term I think is lucrative. Mm-hmm. In the short term is exciting, but like all things, go look at the .com era, then there's one Amazon.
Yeah.
There's only one ring.
Yeah. You're right.
Or a few rings. But
yeah. Look, I think it's a net positive.
Yeah.
That the ability for more creative people to try it out and to have their shot get to in a much easier way without having to raise a bunch of money. You could start a company now with zero.
Yes.
And before it was awesome. Like not possible.
Which is awesome.
It's awesome.
Although if you have a good company, I want to invest.
I see the other side of that coin, to your point. But I do think that maybe I'm a little biased here, but unleashing people's creativity I think is such a gift, because guess what? They may invent the next Amazon, the next Ring.
Yes.
And that's many times how it happens.
Yes. And I'm on both sides too.
Yeah.
I struggle with the fact that because of what I do, I get so many people asking for entrepreneurship help. And when I meet them, they don't have the right approach to be able to. I want to be a diehard. I want to be an NBA basketball player. You could have met me at any stage in my life. And regardless of how much effort and want I have, and you're not. What else do you want to do when you grow up, little Jeff? Like there is I'm not meant to be a doctor, right? I'm not meant to be a musician. I don't have the natural inclination. I don't have the attributes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying most, but a lot of people now, because you have entrepreneurial degrees.
Yeah.
Like people go to college and say, I'm majoring in entrepreneurship, which, okay.
Yeah.
How do you major in something you don't know?
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship to me is not
it's
a
thing.
It's a
concept. It's a mindset.
It's a problem solver.
You're a problem solver. It's not a it's not a thing.
So how do you major in it? You major in what? Till you get into the ring, you don't know how to be in the ring. So I think we have this glorification of it, and I am concerned that it's only amplifying right now because everybody is spinning up. I mean, I get 7 billion emails a day from 48 new AI tools that solve this one little niche, and I think it's wonderful, to your point.
Yeah.
I just don't want people to, in 4 years, when we get through the initial onslaught.
Hype. Yeah.
What are you going to do? If you were doing that, the cementing of those leaders that you talked about is now. So if you don't want to really do it, if you're not all in, burn the boats.
Yeah. Well, I think some people will.
And they should.
Some people will tire out.
Yep.
Fall back to something more stable. Because, again, right now they may be doing it on the side, and some people will want more certainty. It'll get fizzled out. It's going to get more crowded, whatever they think they got a little mini niche in. And so I think that naturally will select people in and out. And then for the rest, hey, they sort of got some real world experience playing with AI tools, which should be valuable to most organizations now that they hire, because absolutely every boardroom in every company is asking themselves, how can we leverage AI?
And if you're not, you're so far behind, you're dead.
Yeah, I'm helping a company out that called me yesterday, and they just said, we just got the mandate that we got to figure out how to use AI. And I was like,
Not
well,
A1?
what are you trying to solve?
Oh, sorry, too soon.
Who?
A1?
A1, that's so good. Never too soon. That's a good one. Yeah. And I was like, well, what are you trying to solve? And they're like, we just have to use it because our board needs, and our investors, they're asking us why we're not using any AI. So if it's at that point, I mean, remember how hard it was to sell stuff to companies that actually needed it?
Yes.
And now companies are trying to convince themselves they need something they don't necessarily immediately need. They're gonna find use in it for sure. But the fact that 100% of companies are now figuring out how to leverage it or forcing their teams to not just one use case. Yeah. Another company that I'm consulting that has a whole a slide of every department and all the AI tools each department is leveraging.
Yeah.
And what it's for.
It's wonderful.
What it's optimizing.
Yeah. They better have used an AI tool to make that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. They probably asked ChatGPT, how can every department here use AI?
Well, because to me, this is the opportunity. So I've found my own success because of timing and identifying opportunities when they were available. The opportunity right now is not to start. It's like the people who got rich in the gold rush weren't the people who found the gold.
Selling the shovels.
Selling the shovels and the hospitality and then leading the groups.
Yeah.
Right? Corralling the people. Right now, to me, you have to ask yourself, and I think it's an important question, do I want to truly be on my own and command the whole thing? The answer is yes. Burn the boats and go frickin' do it. Now is the time.
Yeah.
Don't wait 2 or 3 years because it's going to be even more crowded and tough.
Yeah.
Like, go all in right now. If you're not, and you're like, but I want the opportunity, now is also the time to cement yourself as a true industry leader in whatever space you're in.
Yeah.
And if you're with a entrepreneurial-minded company or you're with a big Google-sized organization, you have a chance to rise to the top at such a speed and pace. And you don't need to be a founder to be an entrepreneur. And that's what I'm trying to challenge people's thinking. Like my oldest daughter, she's not meant to be an entrepreneur. I love her. She's not. She's meant to be an entrepreneurial-minded team member who can disrupt, innovate, and act as if inside of the confines of someone else who's going to not go to sleep and deal with all the things that, when I met you, you had so much hair, you look like the thing, fast forward, look at us. We're aged.
200 grand of Botox later.
Yeah. Well, 300 needed.
Not yet.
Acai bowls. But the point is, it's a different job. You don't get to do the craft when you run the boat.
Yeah.
When you run the company.
Yeah.
And that's the dichotomy that I think enough people who are niche specific and industry specific experts think that running their own company is doing that craft.
No,
it's not.
The farthest from it.
It's P&Ls,
Yeah.
it's insurance, it's liability, it's investors, HR, it's politics, it's blame game, it's business development, and it's none of the fun things.
Yeah.
That's not true. I love it. Let me rephrase. I made that sound terrible. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But I don't love the mundane pieces of it. I love the totality of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But if I was a sales biz dev guy at my heart, I don't get to do that very much. Nowhere near as much as I wish.
Yeah.
Or I could go be a biz dev sales guy and make a fortune.
Yeah.
And if I was able to implement AI applications and come with a strategy and say, hey, David, this is what I want to do. I'm going to be your best sales rep because I'm going to get us all the leads. Here's all the tools I want to implement. Here's what I want to do. I want to work with our own CTO. I'm going to basically get us 10x, and I just want a bigger commission.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're like, absolutely. I'm going to make more money than you.
I want commissioned reps to make more than the highest paid
yes,
executive.
They should.
They should.
They should.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what I'm trying to understand from your side because I'm no longer in the tech. I used to do tech. Today I don't. You living and breathing in the tech space. Do you agree with that comment, or do you think I'm missing the mark?
I think it's a really interesting perspective, and I hadn't thought about it in that way, and that every contributor is kind of their own entrepreneur within the org. And the entrepreneur isn't just the CEO. I think it's a really cool perspective to have. I think we embodied it in a different way, but it was the same spirit, which was everyone's an owner.
Yep.
And everyone should act like an owner. And so people would come up with solutions that would save money and things like that had nothing to do with their jobs. They were receptionists and figuring out how to save us money on Zoom calls.
And pens.
For salespeople, and the pens.
Yeah. Sorry, Vic.
No one knows how to write anime.
Seriously.
Cursive? Could you write cursive right now?
My hand will crimp up after like 3 words.
Yeah, I know. I know, swipe. So I should go like this because this is only the dating apps now.
Yes.
This is what I meant.
It's true. It's true.
But so that's a really cool perspective. I think I'm going to take that nugget.
But do you agree?
I agree, 100%.
Or do you think I'm missing something?
Oh, I think everyone should embrace their role now as how can I 10x myself? How can I solve bigger problems? That is essentially what an entrepreneur does. So I think you're onto it.
And I would challenge those who are listening and going, yeah, but I want the big exit. Well, before you do it, go talk to your leadership team and say, hey, I'm going to go do this for us. What's my participation on the back end?
And by the way, you want a big exit, prove your value here,
Yes.
help this company exit. And then your doors are wide open and just keep learning.
Yes.
Because then, I think people forget there's this kind of instant gratification everybody wants. And when we look back at our lives now that we're in our 60s, there's so many chapters to our lives, right? And when I look back, I remember all the previous chapters were like the one. Mm-hmm. That's the one. And I have no idea what I'll be doing in 20 years or 10 years. There's nothing what I'm doing right now.
Sure.
I know that.
Yeah.
And so, if people look at their lives with a little more of a bird's eye view saying, hey, this is a chapter, and this chapter is teaching me a lot. I'm making money. I'm getting a lot of connections. I'm networking. I'm finding out roles that I like, roles that I don't like. And I'm doing it on someone else's dime, figuring it out. There's
ding, ding.
That is much more valuable than any entrepreneurship education school that's just trying to basically probably just monetize the fact that everyone wants to be. I bet you if they offered influencer class,
I bet they do.
They probably do, right? Everyone wants to be an influencer, and some people will, and some people, it's going to fizzle out. So I think it's similar.
Yeah.
But I think it's great that more and more people have the opportunity to succeed, to have a bigger vision and a dream, and I think people really want to have purpose and excitement.
I do too.
About something.
I do too, and that's why I really want people to challenge their team, their leadership if they work for somebody. I would love for someone to walk in my office and say, hey, Jeff, I'm here till the end. I'm 100% one team. I'm going to get shit done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So in that mentality and in that purpose, I want to make sure that you view me the same. So when I 10X myself and I deliver these over-the-arch goals, am I participating on the end, or am I just a job and then I get like this, hey, Ada, good job. Thank you for your hard work and service. I sold the company and you're out of work.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair question.
Yeah.
And it's the best question versus, can I make more money today doing the same job I did for you yesterday? Because I don't believe in annual raises because 365 days went across the calendar. I believe you have to continuously be improving, Kaizen. So if you've improved your performance and you're adding more value, you deserve to make more money.
Yeah.
And you should kick my door down or anyone's door down if you're not getting it.
Yeah.
And if you're not appreciated for that, but you can demonstrate the extra value you did versus it bothers me so much when NFL players hold out for the contract because they're doing better than their contract, but when they are doing worse, they still get paid.
Yeah.
Right? Because they can't be fired.
Yeah.
That's different than the real world because you can get fired for not performing. So you should, if you overperform, you should get paid more.
Yeah.
And you should challenge the leadership. And if they say no, it's time to go.
100%. And by the way, you as a leader, if someone came to you with that mindset, you want people like that.
I have some on my team.
There you go.
Literally, I will do anything to keep them.
Absolutely.
And I have some that aren't, and they're not with us long.
Yeah.
And it's not personal, it's professional.
100%.
That's the difference.
You're doing both of you a service.
Well, you know what the one thing that superstars drive them away from teams is mediocre team players that they have to work with.
Yeah.
They don't like it.
Reed Hastings also talks about this in the same book. Forget what it's called. The No Rules Rules.
Okay.
Talent, the concept of talent density, and basically says exactly what you just said. That engineers, if you have 10 incredible engineers and you bring one mediocre one, let's say these engineers are 10s and you bring a 7, they all average down to 7.
Mm-hmm.
Because little by little, it chips away that they're kind of on the same team, but this guy's not doing as much, so why should they? And little by little, they work a little less hard and they think a little less outside the box, and they just average down. They don't average down to 8.5; they average down to 7.
And an analogy for that, how I've always seen it is, I could have a pool, and you can watch me pour the best purified mountain spring water into it. You drink it. If you watch me take a dropper and drop one drop of urine into it, would you still drink it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though it's a swimming pool.
Yeah.
You watched it happen.
Yeah. Also,
It's not
I don't know if you
pure
can come
anymore.
into my pool anymore.
I didn't pee in it. I dropped it with the dropper. And by the way, I go into the house on the piano, so why not? But no, I think the
You're right.
premise, though, is because it's uninspiring.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
And what, my favorite quote of the year, and I keep repeating it because I didn't make it, but I hear a quote and it sticks with me, and I'm like, what you don't change, you choose. So if leadership is allowing mediocrity in the door and is allowing them to stay, then they're choosing mediocrity.
100%.
So how can I or you or anyone who believes that they're an overachieving rock star support that?
Yeah.
You have to hold us as the founder leader, like we're going to hold you accountable to all of it. And I want to be challenged by my staff if I go away from my core values.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
I have a job to do too. And if I'm mediocre, it's time for me to be replaced.
100%.
By the way, today's your first day. I've been replaced. So welcome to Everville.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
I am very excited.
By the way, it's no longer the Jeff Fenster Show also. It's now the David Tall Show.
It has a nicer ring to it.
It kind of does.
It kind of is shorter.
It is
Less
shorter.
syllables, easier to remember.
All right. Well, now you know I got the job.
More inspiring,
All the things.
better looking,
Younger,
younger.
cooler,
Yeah, just all the things.
definitely taller,
Yeah, more humble.
way more humble.
Yeah.
Way more humble.
Modest.
Modest.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like this.
Yeah. So,
I like this.
do you mind, by the way, you have a couple companies to run, some meetings to do, some bills to pay. I'm out. Me and the fam, we're going to go to
I'm going to automate.
Target.
I'm going to automate myself. There's going to be a robot here next week. Looks a lot like me.
Yes.
Just a little stronger of a fist bump.
So, kind of moving to now that you've sold the companies multiple times, you've had a ton of success. It's now the famous what's next. And I know you've got some things moving, and I would love to ask you. I told you I was going to ask you on the show.
Sure.
So what's David Tall doing when he's not running Everville We Build in the David Tall Show?
My OnlyFans page is blowing up.
Nice. Well, I got that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice piano.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that picture.
Had to get a new coat on it recently. So I'm now working as an entrepreneur in residence for one of the venture firms, the venture capital firms that funded my last company.
So what does that mean? Entrepreneur in residence.
It basically
Sounds
means
cool.
that it does sound cool, and I do have to explain it to everybody what it is because they're like, "Well, are you like a doctor? You're doing a residency?
You're ordering our DoorDash for us?
Yeah, exactly. Are you an entrepreneur in my residence right now?"
Yeah.
So what basically, venture capital firms are trying to find the next companies to invest in, and they're also trying to help their current portfolio companies. And an entrepreneur in residence, what they're doing is saying, we're not hiring, they already have good investors and people who came from private equity and all these people that can analyze all this crazy stuff. But they said, we want, former operators and people who've been in the war and been through the battle and won some battles. We want them to tell us, how they can help companies, what companies they should invest in, who to look out for, who to double down on, and how people are running the business. So it's really cool. So the position I'm in right now gives me the opportunity to, hear a lot of pitches and identify opportunities for the fund. That's one.
So frontline portfolio.
Vetting, right?
Basically the agentology for...
Yeah, exactly, right?
Okay, you're nurturing leads.
Instead of vetting leads, I'm vetting entrepreneurs with their ideas, right? Okay. So that's really fun. It's sort of being...
So you're like more qualified to judge me than most people.
Yeah, and I have a whole list of...
Shoot.
But I wasn't going to air them here.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's just not fair to you. It's just so long. We wouldn't have enough time.
It's fair. It's totally fair.
So that's funny because I'm on the other side of the table. When I was, I raised money multiple times, and I was on this side of the table, and I pitched over 100 times to VCs, and now I'm on the other side of the table, and I could spot things very quickly. I could spot bullshit. I could spot overconfidence. I could spot naivete, and I could spot really strong jockeys that we should back.
Yep.
And investing in the people even more than the ideas many times. Because the ideas, by the way, 5 years from now, mostly change and evolve and adapt and everything. But you want to invest in just brilliant people who are going to, jump through fire and break through walls and get shit done, right? The other really cool thing is working with companies that they've already invested in and helping them out operationally, strategically, in different parts of the organization. And that's really fun.
How does that go, though? I could imagine some entrepreneurs probably don't like that.
Well, I only work with people who want it, who want the help. This is not forced on anyone. It's people who say, hey, you have a lot of experience in these areas. So I'm helping companies where I have some relevancy to what I've done in the past.
Makes sense.
And so...
Are you facing resistance?
No, not at all.
Because I find, I invest in a lot of companies, and I've also raised a lot of money from PEs and VCs over the past and have investors. And I love help and advice from people who I believe have the value to help me in the areas I need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I'm not in there trying to help, Everbowl figure out how to do things.
You're now the CEO, man. That's not your great day one, David.
Oh, man. Okay. I'm really botching this.
We need a new person. Okay. Shoot.
The robot is going to be so much smarter.
Yes.
So much smarter than me.
Okay. All right. All right. Good thing we can try again.
Yeah.
So you are helping Everbowl, but carry on.
Yes. But I'm trying to help companies that are on a similar stage to the stages I was in. And I'm coming in from a place of
help.
Where can I help? Where are you struggling? I'm not coming in saying, here's all the problems I see.
Yeah.
I'm coming in saying, hey, CEO and executive team, what are your biggest challenges?
But do you think that that's more impactful than coming in and giving them the problems that they may not see? Because I think that's the hardest thing.
If I see them, I'll mention them. But that's not the primary kind of objective to kind of poke holes in everything.
Okay.
Now I use the products and I find gaps and I certainly share them.
Yeah.
But who knows? But there's so many nuances to a company that you don't see. At Everbowl, people just see the counter and the bowls being created. They don't see all of the logistics in the background and all of those things. And so I may be able to come in and say, hey, I think that you should move these toppings to this side because I prefer them serving them in this order.
Sure.
Cool. I could share that. And you could take it or leave it. But if you start sharing with me, hey, we're having a supply chain situation with acai and this and that and packaging, this is stuff I don't see automatically.
Yes.
And that isn't always present just on a balance sheet or a P&L. It isn't obvious necessarily.
Right.
Or that you're bloated in some area. I just see, you're spending a lot on this, but I don't know if that's good or bad.
So this is a little bit of undercover boss. I actually work for the group. So as the new resident entrepreneur, I'm here to actually critique you.
Oh, great.
Yes. So FYI.
I knew it.
You did a solid D+.
I knew it.
Yeah, D for diploma.
The cameras there and there?
They're all over the place. By the way, this is being filmed.
Who set me up?
And But I actually want to give you an idea.
Sure.
Because I believe businesses are pretty industry agnostic. And I do believe that problems can be identified. And most of the time, the problems that sink companies and they most struggle with are the ones that they don't identify, right? What scares the shit out of me is not what I don't know and what I think I know, but it's what I think I know to be true that isn't, right? Because I am dogmatic in the fact that that's not a weak point for me. Because what I don't know, I might find out in time, right? Like, oh, there's tariffs, and I got to go through this port. That's a one-time mistake I can solve.
Yeah.
But what I may not know is that money is bled through this path, or logistics always have this as an industry, and that's the stuff that's repeatable over and over, and it's going to be a hole in the bottom of my bank account forever.
Yeah.
And it's so small, I'm never going to see it.
Yeah.
Right? And so if I had you as my helper,
Yeah.
entrepreneurial help.
Residence.
Shit. Yes.
HIR.
Just make sure my bed is made when I come into the house tonight.
I'm very good at making the bed.
Good. I would ask you, I don't want you to tell me the good stuff. I don't want me to have to help you help me. I want you to say, Jeff, these are your blind spots because I'm sitting over here, right?
Yeah.
The offensive coordinator on a football field is up at the top because he can see or she can see the whole field. I'm on the ground. I'm living this thing.
You're
Wins, losses, I'm in the waves.
You're in the trenches.
I want to know what's coming that I can't see yet so I can plan, and I want some help. And so I would encourage you to, not that I'm sure you do, but push more on them in the areas that they don't see, even if they are against the idea.
Yeah.
Because the right jockeys should be willing to say, okay, that's what I actually need to know.
Yeah.
I want time, right? You used the airplane analogy earlier. Altitude's your friend.
Yeah.
The more time I have to solve problem, the better.
Yeah.
So
right.
the sooner I can get the info, even if I discredit it,
Yeah.
great. But I want it as soon as you know it.
Yeah.
So
I
this is my challenge to you. So,
very valuable.
just want, us at upper management over there wanted to make sure you knew that.
Yeah. Please.
But
Thank
carry
you.
on.
Thank you.
Yes.
No, I agree. I think it's really valuable.
Yeah. Because I think that you have that to provide. So I would encourage you to not worry about stepping on their toes. Because as I try to tell my team and everyone in my friends too, you will never offend me, no matter what you say to me. You suck as the CEO of Everbowl. As long as it's with the best intention of Everbowl at heart, it's a fair thing to tell me.
Yeah.
If you're just mad at me because I, didn't give you a free acai bowl,
Yeah.
well, that's not nice.
Yeah.
I won't be
I didn't
offended.
know you were
going to
find out that I said that.
Yeah, I mean, I read your diary today. You left it on my couch, so
The one time I didn't lock it.
I know. Well, I got the spoon, baby, the magic spoon.
Grab a spoon.
No, I think so. What?
I think very valuable advice.
Yeah, it's just something to think
I
about.
think you're right about that.
And I think that you will help more of them because you have so much experience that you are not going to give enough of you to them if you're only waiting for them to say, "Please help me in these areas."
Yeah.
They don't know.
I think when I was a founder and we had advisors and people we would give some equity to and they'd be advisors. Sometimes some of that advice felt they would give it and it was just they had no idea what they were sort of talking about and it was very so I think I'm a little extra sensitive to that and I don't want to be that guy.
Sure.
Telling all these founders things that I don't know as much about, but I do think that. That pertains to their very specific solution. But I do think there's a place, and I do share where I see gaps or and I do focus a lot on opportunities and areas of growth that they maybe aren't identifying. I try to bring that to the table.
Yeah, and I agree with you because I have advisors. By the way, I didn't get my equity. Just point that out there. But anyway,
you changed your email?
Yeah, I did. It's jeffdoesn'tgetpaid.com.
Yes.
Okay. I still feel the same, right? Sometimes I get some advice from an advisor, a friend, someone I trust, you all the time.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, that's just not, they just don't get it.
Yeah.
But.
So you don't want to sell hot dogs?
Not today.
In the Everbowl
But
stores?
I still want that information though, because.
Everyone likes hot dogs.
Because I believe information is key.
All right.
Because if you say it to me and I discredit it or I rule it out.
Yeah.
I ruled it out.
Yeah.
But what if one time you give me it and it's the right one?
Yeah.
Like, hey, Jeff, blueberries, good. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, I hear you completely.
Yeah.
And I'm
or
not.
it can inspire something else.
Yeah, I just think it's important.
If I try to get you to sell sandwiches and you're like, no, but you're like, actually.
Because you're never going to get into the
chocolate
weeds.
sandwich.
You're never going to be able to get into the weeds enough.
Yeah.
In a product or a solution.
Yeah.
So I think as an entrepreneur, if that's the thing, is they need to bring themselves to the true value, not a doer, but a leader.
Yeah.
And I think you are one of the world's best at that. And that's one of the things I admire the most. So I think you have so much impact to provide to a lot of those, I don't know what age they are, but entrepreneurs that are portfolio companies especially. And kudos to the VC firm for nabbing you up, because I wanted you to be a CEO today, and I guess I'm going to have to wait. But final thought on this is, what's the end goal of that role? Like, you took it. What's the plan? Like, how does it?
Well, I still have, and I told him I didn't want anything completely full time. I said I want to continue to follow my own entrepreneurial journey, which is going to continue. And so I think, the goal for me, and I was transparent with him, I said, I'm going to pitch you some idea in the future. Because I have other ideas. I'm validating them. I want to keep working on new ideas. I want to have another kind of swing at this. I want to have more impact still. I have more in me. I'm not done. And what this allows me to do is to stay connected to the venture world, stay connected to the founder world, to all the latest and greatest innovations that are coming out in all the spaces around real estate sustainability, AI, robotics, all the areas that they invest in, and have a pulse, have a pulse on that, and be able to come back and not have been on an island for a year and come back and that's where I think people start to lose relevancy, when they disconnect for a little too long, and they come right back thinking the world is the same, because just how they say you never step in the same river twice, right? Because the river is different and you're different. Well, a year from now, right? Everything's changed.
Heavy,
right?
I
So
like it.
I want to stay connected. I want to keep a toe in the river.
Which toe?
And I want to, always the big.
Always big.
Always go big.
Right foot, left
If
foot.
you're going to go big.
Right foot, left foot.
That's what I'm probably going to write on the wall.
Ooh.
If you're going to go big.
That's a great name for your book.
I'll have ChatGPT write it by tomorrow.
I already did, by the way. Damn it. And trademarked it.
Damn it.
No, I think that's awesome. And congratulations for that, because not everyone wants to give back. And I think that you are also, like I said, I think you're going to help so many entrepreneurs and founders and businesses with the approach to it. It's never the solution. It's never the product. It is almost never the process. It is almost always the people. And that is why the billion-dollar idea isn't the billion-dollar idea, the 2-cent idea, the acai bowl, everything you've created. No offense. Just kidding. So I think that's wonderful, man. And I want to appreciate you sharing all your wisdom with the audience here, because they don't get access to guys like you. I mean, entrepreneurs in residence. Come on. How do you get those people?
Am I the first?
You're the first one that I've ever had on the show.
I looked it up. It's a real term.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean, now.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No, I think it makes total sense. I do advising, you do advising, but the idea that a private equity or VC firm that traditionally has shared services, you have that HR help, that legal help, that accounting help, that CTO technology help. Why wouldn't you have a founder help?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you have someone to help the person who's making and calling the shots think through it, instead of just saying these niche departments? Like, that's all of it.
Yeah.
Right? How you approach the problem is the most important thing. It's how you do the thing, not what the result was. And we live in a world where results matter. Of course they do, and we are judged by them. But what we fail to realize is your approach to the problem will dictate over the long run how many times you are correct, because no one's right 100% of the time.
Yep.
Right? So that is the key, and I think that's where I laugh and say not everyone's meant to do the role, because they don't have the right approach to it.
Yeah.
They think it's a job. Like, oh, what time do you work till? It's a child, everybody. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have another child.
Yeah.
So whatever child of yours needs you, gets you. And my blood children, live, breathing kids always take priority.
Yeah.
But when they're healthy and my wife's healthy, my business child gets me. And that's a big time commitment. They stay toddlers forever.
Yeah.
I mean, forever.
Yeah.
And when you finally aren't, you usually sell the damn thing.
Yeah.
So it's the ones who don't grasp that concept
Yeah.
and think that they can work and have a balance. There's no balance. It's forever. It's permanent. It's always.
And it's a lonely role in many ways, being at the top and having an advocate, someone that's you're just there to, their sole purpose is to be helpful to you.
Yes.
And to help you avoid icebergs and find green pastures and optimize things is a gift that I didn't have when I was, and
almost no one has.
And few people have, and I think it's a really awesome opportunity for founders to have. It's an awesome opportunity for me to be inspired by other people as well, and other amazing, brilliant founders.
Well, I love it, man. And I want to commend you for accepting that role and that responsibility and that burden. And I think it's for those of your the portfolio companies that get access to it, I really hope that they if they don't hear this, they at least they realize the power of what you can bring to them from someone who has, fought the fight for a lot of years. Gosh, you know what? Can you be? I mean, if they don't want you, I want you. So tell your VC to give me $1.
I would
so
love
I have
to- I
access
would love to work
$1.
with you.
So I have access to you as my entrepreneur in residence. But now you're ready to jump into a little bit of rapid fire. You ready to be in the hot seat?
Let's do it.
Okay, so you're gonna stare into camera 1.
All right.
Not at me.
All right.
I'm gonna ask you 3 questions, maybe 4. That's part of rapid fire. We'll find out together. And first kind of thing that comes to your mind, 30 seconds-ish answer. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Do you believe that human touch will always matter, even in an AI world?
Yes.
Okay. If your kids remember one thing about you and how you built your companies, what do you hope it is?
That every time I got home from work, I put everything down and I became father and spend my time with them.
You built your companies with your brother. What did entrepreneurship teach you about family?
It taught me that trust is everything. It's paramount to everything else.
Looking back, was there a moment you almost gave up?
Many.
What's one mindset shift you did from founder to CEO?
The rise and the success or the failure of your company is not only on your shoulders. It's the entire team's responsibility to succeed.
And is there one San Diego spot that has been your secret thinking spot over the years?
Mission Beach.
Ever?
And Everbowl.
Oh, what a great answer, man. Jeez, you're a genius. Well, there you have it. That's rapid fire, man. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that we didn't cover that means a lot to you, that you wish more people knew about you, entrepreneurship, the journey, business, AI, just, you have so, like I said, people need access and they don't get access to you. So is there anything we didn't cover or that you felt like, hey, you know what? I really want to make sure that more of the world knows?
Nothing specific, but the one thing I will just say, and I know you're a big believer in this, you wrote a whole book about it, but the relationship capital and the way you term that is just spot on. It's all about the relationships, build bridges, and don't just be selfish in the moment about what you think people can help you with. Just be a good person, be helpful to people. Life is long, life has many chapters. We're gonna cross paths with amazing people down the road. We haven't connected in a few years. And I just reached out just to catch up with you because I was just like, I miss Jeff. He's doing awesome stuff. I just want to see him. And, here I am, and this is awesome. And it's just great to connect with you and be inspired by you. And I'm leaving here really inspired by everything you've built, the awesome team and culture you have here. And that was unexpected and just an awesome win. That was unexpected. So I encourage everyone to continue to build that relationship bank account themselves.
And I won't lie. I mean, we said hey to each other a few times over the years, both doing our thing, busy. But I left your office inspired, like I said, years ago. And just like I knew you guys were going to make it bigger than you were at the time. Like that's the thing about betting the jockey. You don't know how, what, when, but when you're around them for 5 minutes, you realize really quickly, like you're going to get shit done and you're going to win the game. Yep. And I commend you for that. And I just hope that you continue to make yourself more available to as many people. And I recommend you write that book. Do more of this because you have so much value to contribute to society, to the founders and entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial minds that maybe aren't the CEOs, but are trying to grow a department or build themselves entrepreneurially within an organization. And I think we can all learn more from you. So, man, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Dude, this was awesome. Peace. See, I got it. It blew up.
It did. That was beautiful.
Shit, only have to teach me twice.
Hey everyone, first I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And if you guys haven't heard about my new book, Relationship Bank Account, click the link in the show notes or search the title on Amazon. This book is packed with all my secrets to success in both relationships and life. Make sure to pick up a copy, and if the book helps you on your journey, let us know by leaving a review. I appreciate all of you and can't wait to see you on the next one.